Hello, everyone, and I want to thank Melanie and Sally for the invitation and to longtime VPM friend Pat Hackler for suggesting that I speak with this group. I'm so sorry that this is a recording and I'm not there in person, but hope you are watching it home and nice and warm. It's truly an honor to be part of your speaker series. Now, I know you've had some famous names with national impact, so I'm particularly grateful that you wanted to focus on local. As you probably know, public media has been in the headlines over the last year with the loss of our federal funding. The news has probably been a bit confusing, so I will share more about VPM, how we're moving forward, and making an impact on the communities that we serve. First, let me start with some history about public media and how we got to today. In the early 60s, communities across this country came together to consider how to leverage the latest technology, which at the time was the broadcast airwaves, for the public good. In Richmond, these efforts were led by Thomas Bushall, who was chairman of the Richmond School Board and worked at Bank of America, and he pulled together some other leaders with names you might recognize, like Robbins, Reynolds, and Gottwald. The community purchased a broadcast license, and in 1964, WCVE went on the air. Let me just make sure I can advance my slides here. There you go. That's the picture from 1964. A few years later, then FCC Chairman Newton Minow called the broadcast airwaves a vast wasteland and conceived of public media as a way to use public broadcasting in the public interest. President Lyndon B. Johnson codified this concept into law by signing the 1967 Public Broadcasting Act, and Congress appropriated resources to support the creation of a unified public media system, which reached nearly every American through a network of local radio and TV stations. The federal resources were stewarded by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. You may hear the name CPB, which was stipulated in the Public Broadcasting Act. And most of that money, I think this is an important point, most of that money, over 70%, went to local stations like VPM. Now, with the loss of federal funding, CPB has closed. So that funding was rescinded by Congress in 2025. Both PBS and NPR are still operating, but they are reliant on stations like VPM to pay dues. Now, many people ask what happened to us. We lost $1.3 million immediately, which is about 6 to 7% of our budget. For some stations, particularly those in small and rural communities, those losses are much higher, 30 to 40% of budget. And it's been challenging because the rescission clawed back money already appropriated, which left not a lot of time to plan. The public media system is now under significant pressure as stations try to survive. We all, including PBS and NPR, rethink our business model. But while it's a challenging environment, we still face significant headwinds. But VPM is in a strong position to survive and to thrive. Not only do we have a foundation with assets to support VPM, we have strong community support across the Commonwealth. For those who don't know VPM, we reach about 2 million people across Central Virginia on broadcast in both TV, and what you see on this slide are the TV areas of our coverage in blue. So that is everything from Richmond through Charlottesville and the Shenandoah Valley, and radio. Those are the red circles that you see. In Richmond, we have an all-new station at 88.9, and then we bought two different frequencies for music. So we have VPM Music, which has classical, jazz, and other music. And then we have two mixed format stations in the Northern Neck and the South Side. And what that means is drive time is news and the rest of the time is music. Our mission is to use the power of media to educate, entertain, and inspire with the vision of more informed, connected, and empathetic Virginians. And while PBS and NPR may be the front door for so many of you, we are so much more. We are truly local. At VPM, we are your public media. Our superpower is storytelling, and we use that to build connection and common purpose. Having local media is even more important in today's media ecosystem since local stations like ours are often the last locally owned and operated media in communities across the country. We have three priorities, which you see here: news, arts and culture, and early childhood education, and I'm going to touch on each of these. One of our top priorities is strengthening VPM news. My background is in news, so this is particularly personal for me. When I was a politics major at UVA, it was instilled in me that an informed citizenry is the bedrock to any democratic society, and I strongly believe in the power and importance of factual news and information. Based on research, when communities lack local news, governments are more corrupt because there is no one to hold truth to power. People are more polarized because they gravitate towards national news sources, and voting in local elections actually declines. Local news is the glue that binds communities together over the issues that matter day in and day out, such as what's going on in our local schools, what potholes are going to be fixed, do we have water, how will we build affordable housing? And it's not just about A1 news, what I would call those leading headlines. It's also civic issues, like what's happening in our neighborhoods. It's also covering what's happening at local nonprofits, such as what exhibit is premiering at the VMFA or right here at the VMHC, which unfortunately we are not at. It's about sports, the arts, and the people who live here. These stories are the lifeblood of a vibrant and thriving community. Many feel a profound sense of mistrust in the traditional news outlets. Some are overwhelmed by choices, others are turning to social media, and there are people tuning out completely because of the negativity they see in the news. While having a set of facts we can all debate is core to our democracy, the news industry is facing many challenges, both in the business model and how people consume media. Over 50% of Americans get their news from social media. Just think about that. And AI is already disrupting the flow of factual news and information. The underpinning of the news landscape has traditionally been newspapers, both local and national, but that industry is collapsing as social media started aggregating news and upended the revenue newspapers would get from classified ads. We've certainly seen the challenges of local news right here in Virginia. Many of the bigger outlets, namely newspapers and TV stations, continue to be consolidated under corporations headquartered in other cities. The lack of trust and disruption in how people receive news and information has consequences for all of us. That's why I'm so passionate about growing our local news, and I believe philanthropic investment in news is essential to its survival. At VPM, we've nearly tripled the size of our newsroom, which is now nearly 30 strong, with reporters in Richmond and Charlottesville. In fact, I believe we've had the biggest contingent of reporters covering the General Assembly that just got underway. The team also covers the environment, education, and law, as well as coverage of Richmond, Henrico, Hanover, Chesterfield, and Charlottesville. Increasing Spanish language news coverage to reach the growing Hispanic population has also been a priority. While VPM has traditionally been broadcast focused, we are constantly innovating with emerging technology to reach audiences where they are. In fact, I would say we're a leader in public media in the ways we are reaching younger audiences. And as I mentioned earlier, when Newton Minow called broadcasting in 1967 a vast wasteland, that's even a worse problem today. When we were advocating for federal funding, I kept hearing public media isn't relevant. Why do we need you with so many choices? And I'm not sure if you've been on the internet recently, but I think that vast wasteland has exploded. Meaning to me, it's more important than ever for us to be a place of trusted news. So on this slide, you start to see a bit of the places where we are. We are on podcasting, since so many young people listen to audio delayed. RVA's Got Issues is a podcast I'll tease in a moment. The Virginia Press Room is a Washington Week style podcast. And we also have a daily news podcast that's about 5 to 8 minutes with the top headlines for those of you who are attention span challenged. As I mentioned, so many people are on social media and get their news on social media. And while that may seem odd to some of you, it's so important that we're there and that we're engaging with audiences on those platforms so they're finding that trusted voice. We're on TikTok, Reddit, Instagram, Facebook, you name it, we're on it. And we're really getting significant views and engagement. Some of our social media videos, our news videos, the short form, get hundreds of thousands of views. And we would have never seen those numbers on traditional television. We also have a website. We have a daily newsletter. I encourage you to sign up. But just to give you a sense of the type of programming that we're doing, I just want to show you a clip from RVA's Got Issues with host Rich Marr. He's a professor at Randolph-Macon. He actually came to us with this idea to create a podcast around civic literacy to teach young people how the city of Richmond and other local governments work. And actually, it's really taken off not just for young people to learn, but also for people wanting to stay engaged here in Richmond. Let's take a look.
I'm Rich Marr, host of the VPM podcast, RVA's Got Issues. If you could change one thing about RVA, about Richmond, what would you change?
Power grid outages happen a lot in our neighborhood.
There was that water crisis that happened.
We bring you the stories and the people that are shaping greater Richmond.
I'd like to see more housing.
The overdevelopment.
I've only lived here for a year and a half.
Oh, and you already have a Carlos Carytown opinion. I like that.
Oh, yes.
Download it wherever you get your podcasts.
So I encourage you to take a listen to that wherever you get your podcasts. Now, an example I mentioned earlier of that changing news landscape is how VPM came to acquire Style Weekly. For some of you, this may be a surprise. Style was started in the 1980s by visionary Lorna Wyckoff, who some of you may know. In her kitchen, she started as an alternative weekly publication, and it was incredibly popular, and she built such a strong brand. And it was then sold through various different owners. In 2021, Alden Global Capital, which is a hedge fund that goes around the country buying newspapers and squeezing them for revenue before shuttering them, bought the Tribune Media Company, which had Style at the time, and then Alden immediately cut it. At VPM, we couldn't let this beloved brand die, and we made a deal to get Style in less than 3 months. In fact, it was my dear friend Bill Martin, who was one of my biggest collaborators since the Valentine had received the physical copies. And I called him and said, Bill, what do you think? And he said, oh, Jayme, you have to get Style. Think of the amazing things we can do together. So we did. We were able to get Style, but we've had to rethink the business model since, as we just mentioned, newspapers in the print business is really challenging. So we've reinvented Style for a digital age. So we do 4 publications a year. You can see those here. They usually have a strong anchor, whether it's the food issue, the people issue, which also includes Richmonder of the Year. Those come out quarterly, and then we do events tied to each of those. So it's a great way to have in-person engagement with Style. We also have multiple newsletters going out, including one that comes out on Thursday that tells you what's happening over the weekend so you can plan. We have a Sunday longer feature. Scott Elmquist will send you his photos, his sort of photo wrap monthly, which is just stunning. It's one of my favorite newsletters to get. And we also have social media, and this is where we've seen the biggest explosion. Last year alone, we had 20 million impressions on Style on social media. And the exciting thing is we're introducing Style to a whole new audience, and it's working. We're really thrilled to see that. Now, if news is the bedrock of an informed society, then arts and culture is its heart and soul. Arts and culture unites us around common experience and shared history. At VPM, not only do we have VPM Music, which I mentioned earlier, which has classical and jazz and just a wide range of programming, we also highlight the best of Virginia through television and digital video, telling distinctly local stories through what's going on things like Virginia Homegrown, which just wrapped its 25th year and celebrated its 200th episode. It'll be back this spring for its 26th season. And we also have Unwind with host Tassie Pippert. Now, Unwind will actually be debuting a digital series this year called Tassie's Table. It's a YouTube series, since so many people Google recipes online. And this is a wonderful way to introduce new people to Tassie and make it much easier to find those recipes that you love. We also have the series Life in the Heartland, which is in its 3rd season, and it highlights rural communities and solutions they're creating to address their unique challenges. We actually developed this series after we did some research on our audience and understood how much of our communities across the Commonwealth are rural. And those folks didn't feel like their voices were heard or uplifted in a positive way, and this series has been a tremendous success. Right now, we're preparing for the Virginia 250th anniversary. If we were at the VMHC, I would give a plug to go see all of their great exhibits, so go do that anyway. Hopefully, you were also able to watch the latest series from Ken Burns, The American Revolution, which aired in November. I am proud to say that VPM had the highest ratings in the country for episodes 1 and 2 of The American Revolution, and we were top 5 for all of the episodes, all 12 hours, proving that Virginia is for history lovers. We wanted to create a companion piece more locally focused and are in production on a documentary about enslaved and free Black people who were a critical part to the formation of our nation and whose stories have not been told. The documentary is called Declarations for Independence, and let's take a look.
Virginia has set the standards for the ways in which African people have been treated since they got here.
It's important in regards to what Blackness looked like in the 1700s.
Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. People of African descent have been embodying those terms, those ideals, far before the Declaration of Independence becomes the reality.
Black people have already created institutions. So the minute that they are free as citizens to get those institutions established in a free realm, they're off the ground and running.
Abraham Payton Skipwith is one of the first known Black homeowners with a fully executed will in the state of Virginia and within the city of Richmond.
He builds a home. He's able to purchase the freedom of his wife, his granddaughter, and wills that property to his family and create the idea of generational legacy wealth building out of Jackson Ward. His vision, his fortuitiveness, and his ability to think forward, to think about not only himself and his own freedom, but the generations that came after him. I think that it offers an alternative reality to what it meant to be Black in the United States at a period in time.
We are very proud of this film. You may recognize Sisha and Anjali Moon at the Jackson Project. They came to us with this idea, and it is being produced by a nationally recognized producer, and it will be distributed nationally on PBS in June. So it will be free for all stations across the country. We're also creating companion materials for teachers and for students. Next, I'm going to show you a special preview clip that represents something a little different, natural history, and it just gives you a sense of the breadth and the depth of the quality of the programming that we are producing. This film is called Shenandoah, about our treasured national park. It's stunning photography, and I'm ready to take a look now. Shenandoah premiered at the Virginia Film Festival in Charlottesville in the fall to a packed house of people who just loved it. You could hear a pin drop in that room. That footage is stunning, and it's not been seen anywhere else. It will premiere this spring here in Richmond. Also will be distributed nationally through a partner of PBS's called American Public Television, meaning that, again, this film will be available for stations for free throughout the public media system, hopefully drawing more people. We will also be creating companion curriculum to this film. I think it's just such a benefit of public media that we can all create this type of programming and share it around the country. Our third pillar, our third priority is early childhood education. Now, of course, you might have nostalgia for PBS and PBS Kids, which is known for current series like Daniel Tiger and Sesame Street and Curious George. Having spent 10 years at PBS, I can tell you it takes up to 2 years to create a PBS Kids show due to the rigor to be aligned with curriculum outcomes. They work very closely with educators on every piece of the program. The work of PBS Kids is essential since over half of the kids in this country and here in Virginia do not have access to pre-K. To me, the federal investment of roughly $1.60 per taxpayer was worth it just for the impact we can have on our children. PBS specifically creates programming to address our nation's top needs, one of which is literacy. In fact, you may know, but Virginia is in a reading crisis. 43% of Virginia's third graders are not reading proficiently, and Virginia is behind many of our fellow southern states, such as Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, and Tennessee in investing in children's literacy. PBS Kids' newest program, Phoebe and Jay, centers around a family raised by a single dad in an apartment complex and teaches literacy through wayfinding. At VPM, we deliver PBS Kids programming and games on digital platforms where most kids consume media, through streaming and through YouTube. You name it, we are there. While VPM is a digital-first organization, broadcast is still incredibly important to families who may have broadband, but it may not be high speed enough for streaming, or simply can't afford it or may not have it at all. Also, in a social media environment where most outlets are focused on monetizing kids and seeing how long their algorithms can keep kids engaged on their platforms, PBS Kids and VPM are one of the few safe spaces for families and ensuring access for all children, including those with learning challenges. And I cannot emphasize this enough, how much care and attention PBS Kids pays to making sure that every child has access to this programming. Here's an example.
Hello, I'm hearing, my husband is hearing, and our child is deaf. And we enjoy a lot of the same things that other families enjoy. Before PBS Kids, I always had this feeling that I was letting her down because what we were watching wasn't really accessible to her. She was only getting like a third of what it was about. I was so surprised when my daughter first took concepts from this show, Work It Out Wombats, with the interpreter built in, and started applying them completely independently. It was totally her idea to draw one of the characters, label steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and then start cutting out those body parts in the order that she had planned in advance. What an amazing skill that she's going to use for the rest of her life to take a project, break it down into steps, and execute on it. I know some families who a parent will get up and interpret next to the TV, and I don't want to have to do that. Like, I want to just be able to sit and relax and enjoy a show together and know that she's understanding everything and I'm understanding everything and we can enjoy it together. And PBS Kids has finally made that possible.
So not only do we air PBS Kids, but VPM locally creates resources to connect here with families. And we do that through ourselves, and we also do that through a lot of partnerships. One of our initiatives is called The Basics, which focuses on 5 key caregiving behaviors that are important for cognitive and social emotional development of children from birth to age 5. We have video content and resources in English and Spanish, and we give out these kits, for example, that reinforce play, singing, pointing, interacting with your child. We have formed a relationship with WIC offices in Richmond and in Charlottesville, where these resources are front and center for families to use. VPM also recently launched the 90 by 5 messaging campaign to underscore the notion that 90% of a child's brain develops before the age of 5. This messaging campaign was created in partnership with the Robbins Foundation and Thrive Birth to 5. This is really critical messaging for parenting caregivers, many of whom, particularly if you're working 2 jobs or you may not have access to a lot of resources, particularly pre-K, you think to yourself, I just want to get my kid into kindergarten and public school and then they'll be fine. Unfortunately, at that point, it's too late. Again, 90% of a child's brain develops for the age of 5. And so we're saying you've got to make that count. And this isn't about having extra money or extra things. It's truly those interactions. It's like I mentioned with The Basics. So we have created a campaign. It's print, it's social media, it's ads, it's banners, it's everywhere, and really targeting those families that need us most. It is in English and in Spanish, and I just want to show you one of the videos.
All right, it's time to eat.
When you make sounds, then they move to their own beat.
He likes spaghetti cut up.
When you read together,
Hot dogs, macaroni and cheese.
then they can learn anything.
Sorry, do you smell?
When you show compassion, then they extend compassion to others. 90% of their brain is developed by age 5. Make it count. Visit 90by5.org.
So as you can see there, the idea is to say, when you do this with your child, this can happen. And so it's not judgmental, it's supportive, understanding that parents are busy, stressed, things are fraught. And so it's trying to be supportive, really encouraging them to engage with their children. So really proud of this work. It is stretched in Richmond and Charlottesville right now, and we've seen some great partnerships with Thrive Birth to 5 and others on this. So that gives you hopefully a little bit of a sense of the type of work that we do and the priorities. I would love to just show you a little bit about our next big project. We can't do any of this work unless we have the facility that is required to do that. And you may have heard that VPM is moving to a new home. Like you, I know you all are undergoing a renovation. I believe we're soon to be neighbors. So if you bear with me for a moment, I am going to share another document about our new home. So first, just to anchor the discussion, I started looking at locations several years ago. I saw 70 locations, in fact, everything from Henrico to Chesterfield, through Richmond. And when I found the location in downtown, I just felt like it was the right one. So we are moving to Broad Street between First and Foushee. Just to anchor you, we are a stone's throw from the Magny Walker statue. Chez Foushee is right on our block as well. Purley's isn't too far. And when I stood on that location, it really felt like a representation of all things VPM. It is close to other Virginia institutions. As a newsroom, it's close to City Hall. It's close to many places downtown that our reporters want to go. As an arts and culture institution, it's in part of the arts and culture district. So we're really thrilled about that. And it's accessible. It's accessible to the public. So I'm going to stop share. I'm going to make sure that I have the right presentation right here. So if you bear with me, recording is definitely a different sort of a way of doing this. Here. This will work. And again, thank you for bearing with me as we are, one of our values is evolve and adapt. And that's what we're doing here today. So as you see, this is the building. As I had this up before, this building was actually designed by SMBW, which is a local design firm. And one of the things we really wanted to do as we moved into the block is respect our neighbors and make sure that the building fit in. Much of the architecture on Broad Street between First and Foushee is 1926 architecture, really beautiful, unique architecture. And so we wanted to bring a modern version of that because you can't ever recreate that really unique look, but try to make sure that we blend it in, but bringing modern. We did kick back the 4th and 5th floors to make sure that we weren't dwarfing over our neighbors, and the sight lines really beautifully lined up. If you've driven down Broad Street, hopefully you get a sense of the respect that we tried to have for the buildings around us. The great thing also is that allows on that 4th floor to have some space for some outdoor space, which is great. So on the 1st floor, this is just a design. What you see at the top is this 1st floor. So the top here is actually Broad Street. When you walk in, there's an event space, and in the back, there's a studio. This is the look when you walk in. So to the right, there'll be this nice open entrance area with some stairs, sort of bench seating to the right. One of the things we really want to do is bring in kids and school groups. We do a little bit of that now, but I think the location will really help us be able to do that. When you turn to the left, as I mentioned, this is our community space. We're really excited about this space. The windows on Broad Street are spectacular. And the idea here is this is a public square. Public media should be for everybody. And this is a great space for events, whether that's civic conversations and engagement. It could be screenings, book clubs, you name it, we can do it here. It seats about 100 to 150, but what makes this space truly different is that it's wired for production. So it's not the best production from a true purist point of view, because there's lots of windows and light. But imagine somebody comes in, we're doing a speaker series like this, and you might be able to record that and live stream it or use it for something else. So a really unique space. And then behind this, we have catering and all the things you need to support events. And again, as you saw in the layout, there's a studio behind that. So the first floor, the entire first floor, can truly be used for events. The great thing about our studios is that we are investing in new technology. In fact, this is one of the main reasons we're moving. This building, as I mentioned, we became WCV in 1964. Well, certainly in 1964, we couldn't have contemplated social media, AI, podcasting, all of the technology changes in our industry. And for us to be relevant and thriving for the next 60 years, we needed to reinvent our technology. Our studios are going to be top notch. We are investing in augmented reality and virtual reality. And that means we don't have to have big physical sets. It's mostly green screen. I can't wait to show it all to you when it's up and running. But the idea is then you don't need a lot of furniture. So in traditional ways, you need sets, and they're big physical sets. We no longer need that. So we hopefully can use our studios not just for recording, but also for events. When you go up to our second floor, this is where a lot of our production is going to be. So this, for example, is one of our podcast studios. We have numerous podcast studios. We have music studios. We have news studios, all interchangeable so we can do different things. We can also, if people want to use them from the community, they can work through us and do that. I'm really excited about our music studio. It's actually pretty big because the idea is we want to bring live acts in so that we can put those on air. Our fourth floor is a great event space. So when you walk up, this is the view. You actually look straight ahead through to our cafe, which we're calling it. Not a great name because there's no free food in the cafe, but it's really a lounge area and a great event space. But you see this nice view. To the left is one of our larger conference rooms, so you can rent the conference room. Also have this wonderful cafe space. They'll give you a sense of what it looks like. This is looking to the right. Here's that conference room space. And then you get another look at that here. Here's everybody's favorite room right now, again, which is that cafe. And then we have this wonderful outdoor terrace on the fourth floor that overlooks Broad Street. So really stunning, really beautiful space. So I will stop sharing. Just a few other things to note about the space. We are on Broad Street, so the main building is actually anchored on Broad Street. It's about 53,000 square feet, so community space, multiple different types of conference rooms for meetings of all ilks, also production and offices. There is parking. So I know this was a big thing when we moved downtown. People asked if there would be parking. Yes. So what we have done is we have built a parking structure. We went down 2 floors, so there'll be about 50 spaces for our staff. And we've gone up about 2 floors for 50 spaces for the community. This will also throw off revenue for VPM as we move into Richmond. We are paying property taxes, so any bit of revenue will help us pay those. On the Gray Street side, we do have a building. You may have seen it for those of you who've driven down Gray Street. That is part of our project. It's a 1-story building, about 1,600 square feet. It actually looks like it's 2 stories, really beautiful high ceilings inside. And this will be for lease. Again, a great opportunity for us to get revenue to help offset some of our operational costs. And should we ever need to expand in it one day, we have that available. So we really envision this space as a community hub, as a vibrant space. It also will help people be introduced to VPM. One of the things we're going to do is put our newsroom, for example, on the 2nd floor. So in this world of AI and who do we trust, we want you to see us. We want you to see us at work. That local is what's important, and that we're here in your community and we're your local public media. So with that, I just again want to thank you for inviting me. I want to thank you for those of you who sat through a virtual presentation. Thank you. Thank you for your grace in figuring out how this all worked. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you are coming away with a better understanding of public media writ large, how VPM fits in, how VPM is leading, and how we are setting ourselves up for success for the next 60 years. And really, so much of that is because of our tremendous community support. So thank you for those of you in the room who watch, listen, donate. It doesn't happen without you. And while we face some really stiff headwinds, we are here, we are strong, we're well positioned, and we look forward to continuing to serve this community. So with that, thank you very much. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And I will be working with a wonderful team at the Women's Club. Again, Melanie, Sally, Pat, everybody, hopefully to get you all in a tour of our new building. Maybe you can even do an event there, perhaps later this summer. Thank you so much.